Dynamite download.
Dynamite download, your home for all positive coverage with all elite wrestling.
You guys, positive energy.
This reality, like, it is me. Like,
Who let this guy in here?
This is what pro wrestling's supposed to feel like.
I'm saying I have a better record than Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe, and now I'm going to have to wrestle them.
I've never seen someone able to break down, like, wrestling like he does.
I said, Mariah May. She said, who?
Because I'm so driven, and I'm so moved to like what I want to do.
Versus Brian Keith match.
it's awesome.
That's so cool. You got like these creepy ass dudes.
Oldest ride, longest line.
I was like deep diving into like cults. My real story does connect with a lot of people.
I never say never about anything.
Yeah.
Back to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. This is America's Dynamite Download in honor of our American champion, MJF. We salute you.
That's right. I got the stars and stripes on right now, and I had to pull out the old school United States Championship right there, bringing it back WCW style. What is up, everybody? It is episode 136 Dynamite Download. Welcome to Thursday night. You know what that means. Mindrunner SPD breaking down all things AEW. And yeah, very captivating intro to Dynamite. We'll dive into that in just momentarily. But as we are taking a sip and letting last night digest,
yes.
What's great about this week is we are getting, let's count it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of AEW television in a matter of 4 days. So that's a lot.
Insane.
That's a lot. And yours truly, SPD, is going to be in the building this coming Dynamite in my town of Greenville, South Carolina. So be there live in person, breaking it down, holding down the fort for DD. So can't wait. Maybe I'll start to make a little, with 6 hours of television, I might actually get a couple notches on my draft point board, which this week kind of was a little stagnant, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, when you have a couple episodes of Dynamite or Collision with only 3 matches, it was hard to move the needle in a few places. But we do have some movement in the rankings, and maybe we should just get right to it.
Let's do it.
All right, at the top with a dominant lead, but not as dominant as it has been. 36 points for Brian, but nipping at the heels, only 5 points away, is Full Tilt Deb at 31, and a very close third place is SPD.
That's right,
at 27. But look who else is in the hunt here: Bobby at 25. And Miss Courtney has broken through the 20 rankings. So it's definitely a major hunt for the first place. And like you said, anything can happen. 6 hours of wrestling before next show. What's going to happen? What's going to go down? Will there be title changes at Battle of the Belts? We will have to find out.
1 month till All In, and then a little over a month to All Out. So still anything can happen in our draft.
Yes.
I would anticipate we start in the final rankings. We start to see some 50s and 60s with that month plus of wrestling, especially when we're starting to throw in things like 6 hour TV time weeks like this one. I can imagine another Battle of the Belts before All In, but you still are going to get 5 hours each week leading up to that, and it will be a lot of fun, man. We are a full grind right now. So I mean, All In, the stage is almost set completely. I mean, two women's marquee matches just announced.
Yes.
Tony Storm, or not just, well, Tony Storm, Ryan May earned that spot. Had face-to-face for the first time since the turn last night. Mercedes, TBS champ versus the DMD, officially announced, hot off the press. Hot off the press. It is official for All In.
Yep, and that was announced today at Comic-Con after a altercation where Mercedes Moné and the newly recruited muscle for Mercedes Moné, Camille Brickhouse, making her return to AEW. They showed up dressed as Poison Ivy and Bane, specifically from the arguably worst Batman movie, Batman and Robin. But they stormed the crowd when they were at Comic-Con, and they had to be separated. You know, there's Orange Cassidy running interference.
Ladies and gentlemen, go in! Book it! For weeks on AEW Dynamite every Wednesday on TBS. Ever since from indoor, you see Dr. Brett Baker and the TBS champion Mercedes Moné going at it, arguing. I'm sick of it. Let's go, baby. I'd love to see that match. With you. August 25th.
Well, there you go. At All In.
That's the first time I saw that, so thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. Tony Khan made the booking announcement at Book It, Tony Khan. It was fantastic, but it's so cool. And I love that they're being smart with some of these bookings. Like that was they were holding that announcement for Comic-Con. So, these surprise booking announcements that are popping up like that, I think that's brilliant. And, you and I have been booking, and a lot of us have been booking Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné the moment we knew she was Mercedes was coming.
Right.
Of course, we've made the argument that some of us Dynamite Club fans are not fans of the DMD. Some of us are. Some of us find that balance between the Thunder Army and Dynamite Download. Obviously, gun to my head, I'm a Thunder Army diehard. But I think this is going to be an awesome match. These are two ladies that have very similar styles. And it was great to see two former women's champions go head to head. It was really good to see Shida and Britt, and I thought this was a great return for Britt.
Let's talk the match, then post-match stuff. But I think I was kind of shocked that they booked this in a good way. You don't want to say like knocking off any ring rust, but like when you put someone back from almost a year off the shelf in the ring and you put them with one of your fiercest rivals, that's a key match in and of itself. And so to really get thrown into the deep end and going all in with your return match is very impressive. And I think there's no secret that the chemistry between these two are spot on and just a lot of fun. That way, I mean, I'm happy they booked this versus a squash. I'm over squash matches. Like I am like, they have a place in time, and Dark was full of that, but the roster is so deep. It's okay to let a talent take a loss, and give the ones that are, established AEW. It's more meaningful. It doesn't have to be a 15-20 minute barn burner. But this is a prime example. Like, Shida is former champ, like you said. DMD, former champ. This could main event most shows on any given night. But it was placed on a Dynamite where it wasn't an event, and it gave us, the return of DMD into the ring.
And it was Britt Baker that dethroned Hikaru Shida for the women's title to begin with, I believe, wasn't it? Like it was because it went Nyla to Shida, then to Britt, way back in the early times. I wouldn't say this was the smoothest match, but one thing that that just to your point, AEW has gotten fantastic with, especially in the last few months, where booking matches where the losing competitor doesn't get buried, if you will. Where whoever's the one that loses the match still has a great showing. Sheeta was dominating in this match. I mean, there were some moments where, I was starting to wonder, are they going to have Britt lose her first match? Is that going to be some kind of thing? But I think it was the right way, and it was also, of course, the right way for what came after the match. But Sheeta loses nothing by losing to Britt Baker. Like you said, if it was a squash match, it wouldn't have been worth our time. It would have just been quick, but here you have Britt, her first match back is against another former champion. And I thought that was great, but I didn't pop as much as I did for the aftermath because she's a brick. Ouch. She's mighty. And she's giving Britt Baker the torture rack. I think this is fantastic booking. Camille Brickhouse, for those of you who are not familiar, she has been in AEW before. She defended her NWA title against Layla Hirsch. I know you saw the memes where they had the tiny girl being held up by the giant girl. There were a lot of those memes going around. Camille's a powerhouse. She's fantastic. Not as familiar with, she can speak, but her strengths are not on the microphone as much as they are in the ring and her ability and power. She was a standout in NWA as a champion, and I believe she's been signed with AEW for some time. They were just waiting for the right time to bring her. I think this is it.
Wow, you drafted her.
Yep, I draft. See, the brain is always thinking. I'm always thinking, SPD. I'm always got my ear to what's going on in AEW. I knew to draft her. Forget about that Motor City Machine Gun mess. That was last season. I'm drafting with a good thought in my head. But she doesn't need to say anything. She could be that silent muscle behind. Let Mercedes do the promos, and she just stand there looking badass. And that's all we need to do. But I also like Brent's prediction because you've got Mercedes and Camille, but you've got just Britt Baker.
Yeah.
I like Brent's prediction here. I think you and I were talking about this before. We're going to get Hayter is coming back. Yes. And Hayter and Camille will put on a slobber knocker. Even in this economy, they would put on a slobber knocker. I think Brent is spot on here.
This is going to be the marquee feud of AEW for a while, I think.
Yes.
And with these four talents, trading matches and going toe-to-toe and playing a cat and mouse throughout, it's just going to be absolutely incredible stuff when Hayter returns to even the odds. So this is just going to be a power by numbers. The DMD is going to get attacked. She's going to be against all odds, and then it's just going to wait, and then boom, Hayter hits harder. It's going to come out to save the day, and the place is going to go berserk.
Absolutely. And I think going forward, I think Camille needs to be booked as almost on the level of like almost a female Brock Lesnar. She needs to be just dominating. And if there's ever a room for squash, Camille just needs to be squashing people with Mercedes just cackling at ringside. And then when Mercedes has a match, she's definitely going to get involved. But whether it's next week or coming up soon, we're gonna hear, because they've got to present Jamie Hayter before Wembley. Or do you think they wait till Wembley and then for the pop there, or do we bring her in before?
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Ultimate payoff for this feud, for the poppage, is at Wembley. Just have like hints. Have the crowd start chanting for her. And just keep going. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then ultimately, because you have a month to build, and that's a lot of time and not a lot of time. And you could play the cat and mouse. You can have a couple promo battles, a couple more of DMD matches, and Camille coming in and beat down, and just DMD, the babyface, just getting beaten every single time. And it's like, who's going to help her? Who's going to help her? You know, maybe she has someone come and help her out and then they get taken out. And it's like, you know, swing and a miss, where it's like you don't have the person strong enough to match Camille and Mercedes. So you're waiting for Jamie Hayter. Have her put in a little nuggets, because I think the pop is saving that pop for Wembley is where it's at.
And I think you're right. I think that goes back to why we haven't seen Camille debut until now. I think that's they were holding off her debut because they want us thinking, well, doing the not the Steiner math, but doing the wrestling math where okay, Britt's alone, Mercedes and Camille are two. Well, who's the logical number two for Britt, or in some cases, Britt's number two? And definitely for Brent Ross, definitely believes Britt Baker's number two, but that's a different conversation.
I mean, you could put Rebel there, and then it would just be like, okay, she's coming out to save Britt, but then, like I said, it's not enough. And then it's just like she's trying. It's just not enough, and can't overcome the strength and the dominance of Mercedes and Camille combined until you get Hayter come back, hit harder.
Yes.
But as we see this card, I mean, I think last 250, Dynamite 250 and Blood and Guts, back to back, this is like marquee cards. I think they're cooking with the cards right now. Quality over quantity for sure with these ones. The matches we saw were really great. I think this was one of the better shows overall. You know, kicking things off with the scumbag himself, MJF, was pretty. This is the MJF that we need in AEW. You know, I'm over, like, he was fun for the babyface as team babyface for a little while, but this rotten heel MJF that we've all have had been the wrath of for so many years is back. It's necessary. You don't have someone I mean, Christian Cage can do some stuff, but nothing like MJF in terms of just like the comments that he makes. So,
and he went there too. You know, and that's the thing about MJF is, like Christian, he is a habitual line stepper. You know, he will step over that line and just because, there's really it needs to be studied how MJF can control the crowd, because he's one of those heels that you love to hate, but he's so good at really even when you love him, he finds a way to piss you off to the point where you can't cheer for him. You know, I think that's one of those things, but it was kind of interesting too, though. And a lot of people are using the Homelander image where when he unveiled the new United States title, and people started going, USA, USA. And he was kind of almost like Homelander going like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Now, it's interesting because apparently back in New Japan, Will Ospreay won the United States New Japan title in New Japan, and he changed it to the UK title. So in a way, this is kind of a slap back from there, but I think this is brilliant. The belt looks kind of cool. I think it looks great. Yeah, and I think this is, and of course, what's cool is MJF, I think, is supposed to be going to either CMLL or AAA to defend that title, and he's going to be showing up with this America belt, and I think it's just going to be it's just delicious delicious heel candy. You know, I'm coining a new phrase right now, SPD, heel candy. Okay. Heel candy are those nuggets where a good heel just has this delicious hate that he just causes everybody, and I just want to eat that heel candy up. And MJF, Christian Cage, and Don Callis are the Willy Wonkas of heel candy. I love it. Yep. And Brent, I'm hungry for some heel candy. Yes. Me too, Brent. Me too.
I am not hungry for some heel candy. I'm hungry for some babyface confetti.
Babyface kale.
No, not tail.
some baby face
steak.
bean sprouts,
white meat, baby face, white meat,
lima beans,
ready for some meat.
baby face, lima beans. Okay.
Said many times, like MJF, as Crayfish has said many times, MJF is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And you said it best. I mean, kind of circling back to the whole Ospreay changing his belt. I mean, he plants all these stories that you have to kind of go back and see and be like, wow, that's genius. That's genius. Like, he's done it so many times in his time in AEW, and it's just like, it makes his promos and him just look so much more, just more smarter than all of us, a scumbag. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the internet community to really dive deep into certain things like that. If 10 years ago or more, there was no IWC, we wouldn't know these storylines. Or the kind of like little jabs that people make throughout wrestling nowadays. But I think it was just over the top cheesiness. Just when you think it was over, then the flag drops, and man, it was just he's really going all into this. There you go. Here's the picture I was looking for.
Yes,
as you mentioned, switching up the titles. There you go. You got the US one right there. And then change it to the UK. You got the international to the US.
Brilliant. Now, I think that AEW is finally finding, and it's been a growing pain, but I feel like AEW has finally found they're finding, it's in the process. They're finding that balance between the quote unquote casual fan, whatever. But I think more of just the regular fans and those diehard sickos that know about this stuff. Like you and I knew about this stuff, but like there's a lot of fans that didn't know Will Ospreay did that. But what's cool about that, it's like in a movie where it rewards the diehard fans with Easter eggs that the diehard fans would pick up on. But if you're a regular fan and you didn't know this existed, it doesn't matter. You're still going to enjoy what you're seeing. Right. And I think that's where they're fine, because there were times I feel like Tony Khan made some assumptions about the AEW fan base in general that most of us didn't know. And I think in some cases it led to a lot of moments, but then they pivot. What AEW is best at is pivoting and turning things into gold. And I think that's what they do. But I think we're starting to see that balance, between, and they're doing, like when Stephanie Vacour was taking on Mercedes Moné, they did a great job showing us who this person was. And I think I'd like to see that continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where something they could have done a little bit better. I think with the Sheeta DMD match, they should have shown video packages, her breaking her nose, and like really hyping it up, like, the rivalry there, reminding us all of how big of a rivalry that they had together. I would have liked that.
Yeah.
One of SPD's favorite thing in wrestling is a chop, and this one did not disappoint with chop battles. Chop
Hi guys.
Forever, chop forever, chop forever,
chop forever.
Oh my God.
I'm changing the name of my band to Fozzie Nina Ray, and it's gotten a lot of positive reactions. But I'm going to start talking about I've got chops on my mind. Hi, guys.
Hi. This was brutal. I was almost getting chop fatigue, but in a good way. I was just like, I could not believe the stamina of both guys going back to back to back to back chops nonstop, a bloody chest that Jericho had. It was just, man. I should have counted. I know when Suzuki and Kingston went at it, the chop battle, that was I think that was like the bingo card tiebreaker. And I think I lost count at triple digits, because I'd be interested to go back and to count how many chops that were in this match. Absolutely unreal.
Well, I got a question. How do you bleed more in a chop fest than in blood and guts itself? I mean, his chest was bleeding. Like, I mean, I don't know if he's got like super thin chest skin or something or whatever, but like he was like, he got to the point where, and this was early in the match. This wasn't like late in the match.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about Suzuki being a chop master, but Aubrey had to put her gloves on because of the blood coming out of Jericho's chest.
Yeah, it was quite painful to watch, but I'm a definitely a sucker for a good chop fest. It's kind of just impressive, like two guys just going toe to toe like that, and not even diving into wrestling 101. It's just literally hammer for hammer for hammer, and the fans ate it up, and I was eating it up at home too as well. I don't think there's any momentum slowing down Chris Jericho anytime soon as the FTW champ. I think this gimmick is awesome. I think the Learning Tree group is fantastic.
Yes.
As you say, broken record week in and week out. We're all learning from this, and I hopefully, please give me a Learning Tree segment next week when I'm at Dynamite Live. I want to be a branch. I need to bring like a sign that says, "Can I be a branch or something of the Learning Tree?"
Yeah, a branch, the branch of the Learning Tree. Yeah, Dynamite download is a branch of the Learning Tree or something.
Right.
Put the Dynamite signal as one of the apples on the tree.
There we go.
I think we and I've seen this on Instagram, is both Ty Mello and Sammy have been training for their return. They're being vague about when that's going to be, but it seems to be imminent. And he's constantly praising her. She's praising him about how they're back training. I think I don't know if they have a place in their house or not that they're training, but they're I think the right thing, of course, we've got there's Shibata, I think, is now the next person that's going to face Jericho, but I think we're going to see Sammy get involved somehow in the Learning Tree, but I think I don't necessarily think he's going to be with Jericho. I think it's going to be one of those where he kind of joins Jericho and then turns on him. I don't know what we've talked about this before, but I'm anxious to see how Sammy's going to fit back into Chris Jericho's Learning Tree program.
As much as they've had ties together, all of AEW, I almost feel like, why not try something different and just not have them together? Sammy could come in as a really hot baby face and have some great matches.
Oh yeah.
Where he would go after, or if he would go after a certain title or not, I'm not sure. I'm not, I've said it before, unfortunately, like, it's cool seeing the FTW title on Jericho and like him actually like defending it versus previous champions in the past, Hook, Ricky Starks, and all that.
Yeah.
It just seems so like blah, in my opinion. But I think this title just needs to be gone from TV. There's too many titles, and this is one of those. It's not even a true sanctioned one in AEW. That being said, like I said, it's Jericho's making it work. He's got a countdown on his entrance of how many days long he's held the title. It helps us at home with Taz talking smack to Jericho and making that title more meaningful. But I think, Bobby, Sammy after MJF, I could see it. The marquee feud we're getting the rematch at All In, Ospreay versus MJF. After that, that's kind of a segue to what you said earlier, Bobby. Like Pac, like we know the commentators mentioned like he's the number one contender. So as we discussed last week, potential triple threat, which I don't think we're going to get because they pretty much announced the match for Ospreay and MJF. Actually, it is announced, official. So yeah. I think that's a marquee all-in match, period.
Yeah.
What happens next? Maybe Pac is the next in line at All Out. Whoever wins that. So Ospreay versus Pac would be absolutely incredible match, in my opinion. Could be steal the show with pure wrestling stuff at All Out. I guess that's where I would go with it. I would go with Pac getting a match at All In because he deserves that. With who? Maybe we just get this absolute banger of a singles match with someone or a trios match with the Patriarchy. I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, you get Death Triangle with the Patriarchy would be incredible. It's interesting. I don't know, because I don't think the Bullet Club Gold is done with the patriarchy.
True, I agree.
But then again, I think that would be, and of course, by the way, shout out to the Guns, who may be getting their figures soon. I know they've been doing some promos with Jazzwares, so it's possible that we're going to be seeing those figures come out.
Guns up.
I would not be opposed to a Pac Sammy match of some kind very soon.
That would be great.
I definitely hope. I know we're going to see this in our lifetime. We've got to see it at some point. Ospreay versus Sammy Guevara would be insane.
Right.
I mean, that would be another insane match. But yeah, it's kind of like I think that, you know, that's one of the gimmicks about having All Out so close to All In is All In is this big. It's essentially AEW's WrestleMania. You know,
right.
That's kind of what it's becoming. But then All Out is kind of like Backlash, where it's like as soon as All In is over, you have these marquee matches, and then you can use All Out to fix and redirect everything for the rest of the season. You know, like, so even if like we saw that with Saraya, we saw that with a lot of things where, you know, everybody gets to have their All In moment, and then All Out is kind of like all right, now we're going to start things up, and no, you're going to lose this belt. You're going to go here. You're going to go there. Bobby, I like that idea. I think Dynamite Kid is kind of being taken under, you know, obviously we saw FTR come out to take him under his wing.
Yeah.
Dynamite Kid and FTR versus Death Triangle would be an amazing match.
Right.
But yeah, I like that AEW is looking to bring in UK talent. You know, we saw Mrs. Ospreay come in and wrestle a little bit, and I'd like, you know, AEW's being smart. They're trying to bring in as much talent from the world as they can, and I like that. And you know, I'm not anti WWE. I think that AEW has really helped elevate pro wrestling all over, whether you're in WWE or not, or you might be, and even TNA is rising. So I think this is great, but
cream rises to the top.
That rises to the top. And I hope we get to see some more international big pay-per-views in other countries. But Wembley is becoming WrestleMania, and I hope this continues to be, because it has that WrestleMania feel.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I think that that's, you know, they're pointing to the sign, they're doing all that stuff. So I think we're starting to get to that point where that's the big, that's like the marquee check on your bucket list, is to have that moment. And again, Emi Sakura needs to have her Wembley moment before she retires, because she saw, when she was a kid, she saw Freddie Mercury perform there, and she needs to have that. I know people have different thoughts on Emi Sakura, but I love her, and I hope she gets to have that moment sometime.
Yeah, I think she's a workhorse too in the women's division, and that would be pretty epic for her. Cherry on top. Blood and Guts. I was there live 2 years ago in Detroit for it. Quite the spectacle. That's where Sammy got thrown off the top of the cage by, I believe, Eddie Kingston. Very, very chaotic in a good way match. And, you know, I had everything from me popping at home, me laughing at home, me cringing at home, and everything in between. This match had pretty much everything you could, except someone jumping off the top of a cage, which I'm surprised no one did. Hence Darby.
Yeah.
This match, I think it was booked really, really well with the pacing, with the spots that needed to be really showcased. And obviously, big story, Swerve and Hangman going face to face. I love the way that they did that played out, where Hangman didn't show up, getting on the mic saying he's going to be fired. So there's still that turmoil, you know, Hangman being kind of that lone wolf, do what I want, when I want, to whomever I want, with my goal in mind, which he's still laser focused on Swerve. So that could be the whole thing with All In and All Out is, hold on.
Yep. Oh,
Which
loved it.
You could have that be the main event of All Out. Like if Swerve loses the belt to Danielson at All In, and Hangman comes out and confronts, they could have their rematch at All Out, which would be pretty epic.
Swerve versus Hangman is becoming the Stone Cold versus Rock. I mean, you could see it coming after that stapling spot they had, and Swerve rose up, beat everybody else, and especially the Okada doing the middle finger and then getting his finger stapled. But you saw it happening. You saw on the other side of the ring, Hanger was waiting. And then you had that moment, and the crowd was just like, here we go. OMG.
Right.
That's how you develop. Shout out to Matt, the Black Wrestling Dude on Twitter, because he was saying the same thing that I was thinking, is how this has been developed into such a mortal feud. And you know that down the line, there's going to be a moment where these guys are going to have to tag with each other. There's going to be a moment at some point, but I hope it's like years from now. But right now, it's like the way this was set up and the storytelling with Hanger. Hanger didn't care about winning the match. He just wanted Swerve. And the way that they threatened to fire him if he didn't get in.
Right.
Hanger was just completely just focused on Swerve. Swerve went from wanting to win to fighting Hangman. You know, we saw how they ended up fighting up the ramp towards the end.
Yeah.
Another thing that I found interesting about this match is the previous Blood and Guts matches were like rated R gore fests, whereas this was a PG-13 thriller. There wasn't as much blood. I mean, there were some cringe moments, definitely with the tacks and with a lot of this stuff. And, we're going to talk about the ending in just a moment, I'm sure. But the moments that happened in Blood and Guts were less bloody and gore, much more that anticipation and those emotional shock spots where, right off the bat, I mean, the first two guys for Team AEW were completely cut out for this. I mean, Darby Allin is, he eats tacks for breakfast. Mark Briscoe, he was doing his redneck kung fu. I mean, he lives for this kind of stuff. But I have to give the Acclaimed their flowers, because they were getting a lot of skepticism about being in this kind of match. And if anybody saw the promo they cut afterwards, but Bowens and Caster, and definitely Caster, I knew Bowens would be able to hang. I had confidence that Bowens was going to be able to do his thing. I think he's tremendous. But I was really proud of Max Caster really embracing this kind of match and really shutting a lot of the haters up, because I think he did an amazing job in this as well. And, proved that he's not just a rapper who sometimes wrestles, and really got in and participated. And he was a valued part of the whole match. And I just felt like from start to finish, like you said, it was well planned, well choreographed. The story, the internal storylines that were playing out, all of the spots, and then the ending spot, I mean, is perpetuating, furthering the Elite storyline. You've got that going. You've got the possibility of the tag teams. Again, the promo afterwards, Acclaimed are not only pissed at the Young Bucks, they want their tag team shot, but they're also pissed at FTR for saying they're not worthy. So, so much storyline going on with this. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and a lot less blood than we've seen before at Blood and Guts.
I appreciate. I'm glad you brought up a lot of those points, because looking at Team AEW versus Team Elite on paper there, and as I was saying, this Team Elite should have really elevated themselves even more by winning this match. But the way it panned out really further are more stepping stones to All In. Like you said, the Acclaimed really impressed me last night. Really, really impressed me with not only the moves that they took, the violence that they took, how well they carried the match, and really went on offensive sprees as well. they were pretty much, solid carrying that match for Team AEW most of the time. And they did impress me a lot. So as you said, props to both guys doing that. That being said, Darby Allin, like everything from the promo earlier in the show with a little bit of, motivation / direction of what Darby's, and Swerve kind of going back and forth a little bit there. I love the passion that Darby is showing as of late, getting on the Darby Express, choo-choo, and getting his match. I think it would have been fantastic if he could have pulled out the flamethrower from under the.
Yeah, I was wondering what he was getting, because in fact, even then I thought he had a lighter and he was going to go like this.
Right.
But
that flamethrower would have been great. That would have been a perfect way to be like, yes, I quit. Like you're like for sure. Being said, like the way they hung up Perry and doused him in gas and we're making him quit. I think that was a good ending. This is a hard ending to book. I feel like these matches are hard to book because you have to surrender.
But it was brilliant how they did it, though.
Yeah.
Right? Like I thought that was and they actually have really gone. I mean, they've done a tremendous job making Jungle Boy Jack Perry a badass, because from Windowgate, he was people were like, okay, he's a heel now. But after Crimea River and the suspension and then coming back, this whole scapegoat thing, he's really been coming back. He's really been carrying himself as a disgruntled badass. And
for sure,
I feel like it was perfect for that. Jack Perry wasn't the one to say I quit.
Right.
That it was Matt that actually had to say it. And also not just that, but also book the TNT match, because that takes it would have taken away from Jack Perry if he was the one to quit. Yeah. And even if he was the one to say, okay, you've got the match, he was like, burn me, I don't care. And I think that actually makes him more of a badass. That actually did more for his character. And even his bit of disappointment, he almost looked disappointed at the end when Matt said he quits. At the end, hanging there like this, covered in gasoline. He almost seemed disappointed, like he would rather burn. I thought that was brilliant booking.
He was going to be the sacrificial lamb or goat for Team Elite. But and then you had more storylines. Well, I like what you said about the Acclaimed.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to sneeze. The Acclaimed, how, proving their worth. And so that's going to give them motivation. That's giving them the old street cred of the road to All In for their title shot. I mean, it's not official, but that just seems like the way it's going to start to pan out. Now, whether that be a multi-team match like we've discussed in the past, maybe a fatal four-way, triple threat, whatever it may be, that'd be great. But then you have the Hangman Okada incident, the friendly fire where he clotheslines Okada. And I've seen some rumblings of possible rumors, maybe Hangman versus Okada that's All In. Because right now, both guys don't have a match that I'm seeing lean into that direction. Now, if Briscoe loses his Ring of Honor World title to Roderick Strong this weekend, maybe Briscoe could challenge Okada for that Continental Classic.
I think that'd be tremendous.
That could be a segue where Briscoe's now going to be featured more on AEW. Not that he hasn't been, but he has, with the conglomeration group, which has been kind of oddly working for everyone.
That's because the word of the day, SPD, is conglomeration. And sometimes it's exasperation and perspiration, but most of it is inspiration. Because you got to be inspired, SPD, because sometimes it's the most unlikely people that have one thing in common, and that is kicking the ass of the enemies. And if your enemies of your enemies are your friends, then you are a conglomeration of inspiration.
Sorry, Finnegan. Scared my dog.
Finnegan thought we were barking at him.
That's right. Back to this, though. Well done, Briscoe. Well done. Back to this, and this was the thing I was looking forward to the most all night, was the face-to-face that was going to happen with Swerve and Hangman.
Beautiful.
I think it delivered the way they booked it. This is just showing a ruthless side of Hangman, someone who's so driven for revenge, driven for by hatred, and to get back at him. And then I think Swerve is starting to show that dark side again as well. So
yes,
the meat on this is just they are marinating it right now for us all.
It's almost the reverse position here because Swerve saw the monster inside Hangman and brought him out. That's where, when this whole feud began, that's what the theme was, where Swerve saw the monster in Hangman and brought him out. Now that Swerve is champion, he's trying to be a leader. He's trying to be the leader of AEW. He's trying to be the face of AEW. But Hanger knows the monster inside Swerve. And what you see in this image, you see the mask on Swerve has dropped. And you just see the two of them, and it's cinema. I mean, it's just such great writing. Also, the quote almost sibling rivalry between Hangman and Okada that's developing, because Okada feels like, you don't belong here anymore. I took your place.
Right.
And yet Hanger is still there's still some compassion from the Bucks for Hanger, but more so that this is how you build a feud around two of your top stars. That I hope we get this for years to come. I hope 10 years from now, we're going to have those pops where they suddenly are back in the ring. There's going to be moments where this is going to be one of those things where when AEW starts their Hall of Fame, we're going to see these two guys there. I guarantee it. That's
a great point. We're talking about how I mentioned this could be, maybe they run it all out, this match, because it's so kind of fresh, but they're still battling it out. And we spoke about this before. We're a month away from All In. Do you think Kenny Omega shows up?
Hard to say, because I think he wants to, but I think a lot of it really is what's going on with his health.
Right.
I think he would, even if it's just an appearance. I think I think the crowd would pop.
Right.
But again, it's really going to depend on, that's the sad thing too, with all these, with everybody, the real life side of things. We've lost Sky Blue for a while, Riho, Jay White. Injuries were just plaguing so many people now. But I think that, I think we see him in some capacity, and of course, he's going to be a baby face, and maybe he comes to Hanger's defense.
Well, this is how SPD Dream match would be, or Dream
booking
cards. So this is how SPD would book it. Booking, hot take by SPD, booking by SPD. So Okada faces whomever at All In. I don't have his opponent booked yet, but
Briscoe. We'll just say Briscoe.
Let's say Briscoe. Kenny Omega comes out, saves Briscoe, confronts Okada. Okada versus Kenny Omega. Marquee match set for All Out in 2 weeks after. Now, Ospreay beats MJF. Number one contender Pac challenges Ospreay at All Out. Two huge matches at All Out. And then the Hangman versus Swerve in a steel cage match at All Out as well, after Danielson beating him for the title.
All right. Does Danielson beat Swerve at All In? Does he stay champion, or is he retire at All In as champion?
I think it would be, he's going to be champion. I think you finish out, even though, it's no secret his contract is up in a week, less than a week, August 1st, on actually a week from today. So I think it would be great to Danielson to have that, and he could say, I have my contract through the end of the year now, or whatever it may be, which the pay-per-view happens to be in his hometown, which can kind of be like his right off to the sunset moment if he defends it there and or loses it there as well. So I would like to see Danielson win. as someone who is a huge fan of him, think for him to get – he's had those moments in his career, but I feel like it would be a good segue because the world title is not needed in a Swerve Hangman match right now. It does add to another level, but the Swerve Hangman rekindled feud is just in and of itself pretty great. Now MJF losing, where does he go from there? I don't know. He would get some mad heat if he beats Ospreay in his hometown.
I think MJF retains. I think that's the move because Ospreay is going to move on to Ospreay's going to move on to the title picture. So if Bryan Danielson beats Swerve for the title,
rematch Ospreay Danielson Wrestle Dream.
Yep. I think that's where you go. And then you bring Swerve back into the title picture.
Interesting. All right. So All Out, if All Out was Okada Omega, this is stars align. Okada Omega, Hangman Swerve, and Ospreay Pac. Then you have tag match, Mercedes and Camille versus DMD and Hayter.
Yep. Which Hayter showing up at All In sets up All Out.
Right.
For that. Yeah, I think that's
how great would that be? Just those 4 matches alone would just book it.
Book it.
That's right.
And
here we go.
I think you have FTR versus the Bucks, and you have the Acclaimed versus the Bucks for the titles at All In, All Out, respectively.
Wow. These are some fun fantasy booking times.
Great time to be a wrestling fan. Great time to be an AEW fan, man.
Yeah. So 2 quick things before we wrap up. Mariah May. The debut of the glamorous Mariah May. As broken record here, we know like as close to the total package as you get with Mariah May right now, especially hitting on all cylinders. She is awesome in the ring, excellent character work, just carries herself like a superstar, and it's been a lot of fun to watch the rise of Mariah May over the last few months, and really it's going to culminate to get gold at All In. So I'm excited for this, and I think the way her character has shifted so quickly has been spot on.
Well, now SBD, I have one question for you. Are you prepared to die? Because I am. What a tremendous, the transformation. Chef's kiss. This has been such a cool thing. This is one of those stories we know it's coming.
Right.
They're totally following the All About Eve, and there's some of the other classic films. And apparently it's been revealed that RJ City does a lot of the writing for Tony Storm.
Right.
But this has been that moment after Mariah May's match where she wrestled somebody, and Tony comes out and she's got that look. Now it's like Tony Storm is a clear baby face at this point. There's no sidestepping it, and it's going to be such a great moment for this feud. But I think you're right. I think Mariah comes away with the gold at All In.
I hope so. I think it's time. I think that Tony has held it so long and has done so great. I think it's time to switch it up. And as we have said before, it's fun for a babyface to chase a heel champ. And so now you're going to have a heel champ for a while. You're going to have potentially, however All In goes, 2 heel women's champions with Mercedes and Mariah, or if DMD does take that belt, which would be great as well, defeating Mercedes. And then you have 2 fresh champs after All In.
Yep.
I think, as you mentioned, being the marquee pay-per-view of the year, this is a chance to reshape your direction you're going in as a company as into the next season. Now, that means Danielson could potentially be the new champ. So that might be maybe our bingo card tiebreaker is how many title changes, maybe.
Could be.
But do you see Well, I guess we don't have. How many? Do you see a lot of titles? Over or under 3 titles changing hands?
Mariah, Danielson. Yeah, because I see the tag titles changing.
Okay.
I think the Bucks lose the tag titles at All In. I see
They
at All
lost
In. I
last
see
All In though. You think
what's
they're going
that?
to lose it? Both they lost last year at All In. You think they're going to do that?
Well,
So it's
they're
technically-
snake bit. You know, they got the inverse of the Undertaker streak. They
the snake bit.
got the Brown streak.
Right.
They got that going for it.
I can definitely see both women's changing hands.
And I again, the dynamics of the women's division now, this is the best the women's division has been, I feel like, in a long time.
Right.
And we're also, I think, going to see a change in Thunder Rosa after losing again to Deonna Purrazzo. She kind of went through, she's starting to cut these promos of maybe she's going to start to become a little more Joker-esque. You know, we might start to see a much more twisted Thunder Rosa, so she might factor in as a future opponent. There's so much cool stuff going on with AEW right now, so strap yourselves in, folks, because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Buckle up, as our slogan was for a little while. Buckle up.
Yes. Oh, this is going to be so killer.
Winner gets an AEW World Championship match at Grand Slam. So that's in September, mid-September. This kind of throws a wrench into things because if Swerve does win, I think Swerve and Darby have already kind of planting those seeds at having a match. That being said, it could mean nothing, just Darby's passion and going. So we'll see where it goes. You know, I don't know. Royal Rampage is always a fun match. Seeing it live, that was the first time that Brody King won, and he choked Darby out, hanging him over and dropping him. I think that was the first time he used that move, and it was pretty epic to see, and kind of it's a wild move, and he used it recently too, and the double finish that they had.
Could we see the debut? Is it too soon for Ricochet to show up?
I think as much as, I mean, what's at stake in this match is a lot. Yeah. So that's in and of itself is a big deal, but Ricochet should be debuted on a live show.
Yeah.
Such as Dynamite or Collision.
True. And there's probably already spoilers out there.
Right.
You know, and stuff like that. I do like that we're going to see, now I'm disappointed he's not in the Royal Rampage, but we are going to see Murder Hawk.
Yeah.
He's got a separate match that night too. So that's going to be
the promo he had as well on Collision was fantastic. That's the Murder Hawk that we have grown to love from early on, of just being a menace backstage and everyone literally running for their lives because everybody guys. And just cutting these fiery promos that are, you know, short and sweet but effective. So, you know, I mentioned earlier in our show, not, you know, squashes, but a Camille or a Murder Hawk, those type of beasts squashing is more palatable to me.
Yeah.
Versus, let's say, Sky Blue going in there and squashing someone. You know, just to gain some momentum.
Good stuff. Oh man, I'm excited. It's going to be a wild few weeks here, man. The summer is heating up, and
if anyone sees anything about what's going to be booked next Dynamite, because I have not seen anything of what's announced for next Dynamite that'll be there live. And next week on our show, I will give you all the behind the scenes stuff. I'll be Marvez, Mr. Scoops of the show. So I'm excited to finally go to a show in my backyard because I wasn't able to go last time. I was out of town, so it's actually going to work this time. So I'm really excited to see AEW in my hometown.
AEW.
Thank you guys for joining us. Episode 136. We appreciate you all always in the chat. Stay tuned. We will update the rankings as they start to go out. A lot of wrestling ahead of us this week. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Rampage. The card looks fantastic. And we'll see what's in store for Collision because they haven't announced anything at all either. So have a great weekend, folks. And we'll see you on Thursday.
See you on the